Are you a huge wrestling fan? Do you enjoy watching the WWE? If so, then check out Wrestling Discussions, my second podcast that's available on all streaming platforms where I discuss WWE topics. So tune in today.
Welcome to this episode of Inspiring Discussions. I'm your host, Ashley Janae. And as usual, I want to thank God for blessing me to do another episode. And thank you all for your support. And today's episode is going to be lit because we have a special guest. He's a hip hop artist from Chicago, Illinois, with a new album titled Shelf Life that's available on all streaming platforms with hits titled Shiro, Shelf Life, BBL, Soldier, Mama's Laws, Angelic, and Hood Statistics. So please help me welcome Uncle Reem to Inspiring Discussions. And how are you today?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm blessed. Yes,
That's
and then could
fine.
yes, and then could you tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a love. I'm what you probably would refer to as an old head, which is why I use the name Uncle Reem. I just embrace that. I embrace that. I embrace that identity. There's a lot of ageism in hip hop, and I try to like to go against that. You follow me? So I adopt the name Uncle Reem to just
Mm-hmm.
let you know that I ain't running away from my age. Because I believe that there's wisdom in that. But I'm 48 years old. I'm from Chicago originally, the West Side, Austin area. I'm married. Been married for 24 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm a Muslim. You know, and yeah, I was a school teacher for 10 years. And yeah, when I was back home in Chicago, I taught, for Muhammad University of Islam, Chicago, for 10 years. In the intermediate grades, third through fifth grade. But as
Mm-hmm.
far as hip hop goes, I've been rapping, for really most of my life. Yeah, most of my
Okay.
life I've been, rapping. I'm trying to think
Okay.
what else, what else about me could I say, because my life is I've been, excuse me, been through a whole lot, have had a whole lot of different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Some negative, some positive. Had a real diverse, I guess, lifestyle and upbringing to
Mm-hmm.
get to this point. But the main consistent man, I always been a fan and lover of hip hop, and have always been a writer. That's I guess the most consistent aspect of my life.
Mm-hmm. Okay, nice. So, what made you decide that you wanted to become a hip hop artist, and this was for you? This is really what you wanted.
Okay, so when I was first started hearing hip hop back in the 80s, um,
Mm-hmm.
some of the earliest artists that I heard was like Eric B. and Rakim, UTFO, Roxanne Shante. That's the era that I come up in. I don't know if you're familiar with those artists, but when I first started hearing hip hop and getting into it, I always wanted to be a rapper. But I guess when I first started taking it seriously, like taking the writing seriously, learning how to count bars, learning how to structure songs, is I would say back when NWA was out, I was a real big fan of MC Ren at NWA. That's why I used to kind of pattern my rhymes after. And so at school I used to do the talent shows at school. We used to do the little talent shows around the city, and yeah, so that my brother used to rap as well. And so, my brother and I, we used to do talent shows and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we were real serious about it. But nothing really took off from there because while we was trying to get into the hip hop, we was also doing a lot of things we ain't had no business doing, like in the
Uh,
streets. Yeah, yeah. You know the story, that
yeah.
that same story that a lot of us go through. We engage in certain stuff, and that's
Mm-hmm.
you know that's what we was into, and that kind of monkey wrenched a lot of what we was aspiring towards, as far as the music goes.
Okay, cool. So I know you named some artists that you grew up listening to. Now, were
Hmm.
there any more other influences that inspired you to rap?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So like I said, coming up through the years, like I said, it was MC Ren for a while, Rakim, when Nas first dropped Illmatic, that that album had a real magnetic effect on me, like because like when he dropped Illmatic and everything that he rapped about on that album, I was pretty much going through it at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. So it was like that album. I probably listened to that album when that dropped. I probably every single day the year that it dropped, like literally multiple times a day the year that it
Mm-hmm.
dropped, because I totally related to it. His style of writing was very new to me. In terms, he was similar. I don't want to say it was new because he was similar to Rakim and Coogee rap.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that those were his influences as well. But just the poetic depth of what he was doing was different than even what Rakim and Coogee rap was doing. He had more of a depth of an understanding of the written word, and and like I said, it resonated with me because I was always a good
Mm-hmm.
writer myself,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, I didn't prior to that, I didn't think you could get that profound with the pen and people still pay attention to it,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, that had a real effect on me and how I wrote my rhymes, so Nas was a big influence. Wu-Tang Clan, was a real big influence on me. Particularly, well, I like the whole group. That's probably my favorite group. I used to listen to all Wu Tang albums, but RZA was the one that was the most influential out of the group musically because
Mm-hmm.
just his just his approach to music and his constant desire to improve on what he was doing with music by learning instruments, things like that. So I was always following his career, even like later on in his career where he started kind of deviating from the formula that made Wu Tang popular, because he was picking up more live instrumentation and learning more about the music, scoring movies and stuff like that. Um, this was real inspiring to me though, even though
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people went away from his music. It was just cool to me to see the level of experimentation and and how a person could learn more about their craft and what you put into it. And I definitely learned a little something from all of these people that I mentioned.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Now, do you remember exactly how old you was when you wrote your first rap?
8 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
I was
yeah.
8 years old when I wrote my first rap. Now it was like, I think now that I could count bars, it wasn't nothing but like 8 bars at the time. You know, at that time, of course, I didn't know what a bar was.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, I didn't know what a bar was, but I knew what a beat, what a 4-beat measure was, because my grandmother was teaching me how to play the piano.
Oh, okay.
Well, the organ. Pardon me, the organ. My grandmother
Mm-hmm.
used to play an organ. She was
Okay.
teaching me how to play an organ, and I learned what a 4-beat measure was from her. But I still didn't know, like, at that time, this is the '80s, so far
Mm-hmm.
as what a 16 bar verse was, this is not just something that I didn't know as an 8-year old. I just know I would hear Houdini and all these guys on the radio, and they had a real simplistic rhyme scheme, and that's how I sought the rap. And me and my cousin Stevan, we would rap about people in our class, because
Mm-hmm.
that's all the only experience we had to rap
Exactly.
about. So, but yeah, 8 years old, I wrote my first rhyme,
Okay,
and I've
cool.
been writing rhymes ever since then. I didn't I didn't start getting good till I got like in middle school though.
Mm-hmm.
Like like good, like when I would go to school, it'd be battles in the either in the lunchroom or the lobby.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like if somebody come to the school who knew how to rap, I
Uh-huh.
bet you can't beat Kareem, and they coming to get me, and then we battling in the lobby or the lunchroom.
All
So
right.
so
So
that's the way that it went by the time I got him. So that's how I knew I was
yeah.
good, because I was always, even in the neighborhood. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? In the neighborhood, because at that time, see, nowadays everybody know how to rap. At
Mm-hmm.
that time, everybody didn't know how to rap. There was only a few people in the neighborhood that knew how to rap, and
Yeah.
I was one of them. And so, like, if somebody new came to the neighborhood that knew how to rap, they coming to get me or my brother, and we
Mm-hmm.
battling those guys. So that's the way it went back
It
then.
kind of like an 8 mile.
Right, something like that. I didn't enter into organized battles like 8 Mile, because that was more organized, but
Mm-hmm.
it was more like informal, just neighborhood bragging right stuff, not like an organized battle for money.
Got
Maybe
you.
the dope boys on the block would will put money on it. You get what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
it wasn't like going into paying it money to get. We entered into competitions, but not like organized battles like that. Like on Eight
Mm-hmm.
Mile, it wasn't a whole lot of those. I'm pretty sure in some area of Chicago it was, but like in our area where we was at, Austin,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a lot of that though.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And I see you come from a large family of music. You just said that your grandmother used to play the organ and your brother was a rapper. So
Mm-hmm.
now how did your family feel about you wanting to pursue a career as a hip hop artist?
So my brother was always very supportive. In fact, like he helped me. My brother helped me to clean my lyrics up, and I don't mean like taking cuss words out of it, but I mean
Mm-hmm.
clean it up in a sense of how to better deliver my flows, and how to how to vary my intonation of my voice and things like that. My brother taught me how to breath control, all that. That's my brother taught me the mechanics of delivering a verse. So
Mm-hmm.
he was always very supportive. As far as my parents, they really didn't have an opinion on it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They really wouldn't. They wouldn't like embracing it, but they wouldn't like against it either. They was kind of neutral on it. And they didn't. They wasn't supportive of it back then in the sense of they didn't like invest in it or nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't really concerned with it one way or another. They're supportive of it now, but at the time, they weren't very. But my cousins, they was all supportive of it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the adults in my family, like my aunties, uncles, they really didn't. They were neutral on it. Most of them didn't even really know that I rap, because
Right.
it was always, we was outside. We was outside. In the 80s, 90s, we was outside. We wasn't in the
Mm-hmm.
house. So
Exactly.
so the people who knew we rap was outside too. Our cousins, siblings like that, and friends on the street or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess they had their beliefs because in the old school days, people just wanted you to go to school, go to college, and get a good job. Now
exactly.
it came to like hip hop and stuff, like you just said it. I mean, a lot of people, I guess, didn't understand the career that you can make a career out of it.
Right.
And then Tupac and Biggie basically proved that you can.
Yeah, but and see, even so, like even like when we was outside in the streets and doing whatever
Mm-hmm.
we was doing, when we would be out doing whatever we doing, I would try to even convince people, that I was associated with to try to invest in the rap thing, and they
Mm-hmm.
was like they always would brushed it off like you know it ain't gonna be successful pretty much. We out here getting money, you know, focus on that. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
That's pretty much what it was. So it was hard to get people to like really consider it and really be serious about it. But and the crazy thing is now we've seen people from the neighborhood, become successful from the hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like that boat passes because we were focused on other things
Mm-hmm.
and you can't really knock that because when you're in survival mode, you just trying to do what you need to do to get the next meal to get to the next day.
Mm-hmm.
You're not necessarily thinking about purchasing equipment, things like that. You might not have a disposable income to do that because you might got babies you got to feed. So I can understand why the people, my associates, family members, were reluctant to take that serious because to some it just looks like a pipe dream, and in most instances it probably is, right? But
Mm-hmm.
but that's where somebody passion comes in, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, because eventually your passion is going to eventually pay the bills. Now, is it going to pay the bills in the beginning? No, because you have to work your way up. But if you
Right.
keep staying consistent, it'll happen. You just can't give up. You just got to keep going.
Yes,
And they
ma'am.
always have something to fall back on too, and always have more than one way to make money out here. That's what I try to tell people too. Because I know the last artists I had on here, they said the same thing. You got to have something going to support your dreams.
Exactly. And and
Yeah.
and and I guess that's the advantage of
Mm-hmm.
uh focusing on my craft later on,
Yeah.
because I got married what in my 20s, kind
Okay.
of young, which would probably be for most people that rap the prime years of their
Mm-hmm.
life, but I focused on, marriage, family, my children,
Yep.
educating myself, you know, everything I needed to be responsible. Now all my children are adults.
Yep.
So now I'm focused on, get it, me and my wife, we focus on building our legacy. So
Mm-hmm.
and so my craft, something that I'm good at is part of that, one of the tools we using to, to get to that point where we building our legacy.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
so I was able to, purchase equipment and and hone my craft to the point now where I feel like, my material, the quality of what I'm doing is to the level that it can be shared with the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, nice. And how many cities have you performed at so far?
So far I performed in Phoenix, I
Okay.
performed in Chicago, I
Okay.
performed in Charlotte. I haven't performed in a lot of cities, but we're putting together, we're my wife and I, we actually putting together some plans to do some shows. So
Oh, oh,
yeah, we're putting together plans to do some. Well, not just do some shows, but to do some talent shows. To give exposure to local talent as well. So these are
okay.
some things that we have on the agenda.
And that's nice too. That's nice too that you are willing to, help other people pursue their dreams as well. Yep, I like that. And now, any other dream cities and countries you would like to perform at?
Yeah, absolutely. I initially we want to start local because that's typically the thing that you want to
Mm-hmm.
do. So two cities that I'm connected to, of course I'm connected to Chicago, so I do want to do some things in the Chicago metropolitan area, Chicago, Gary, just the area, Detroit, maybe, Midwestern areas that, that's in the, like the greater Chicago area, and down here in Charlotte because I live here. I've been here 10 years, but my father from here originally, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so I've been back and forth here most of my life, So I got as much family here as I got in Chicago, and I got a lot of friends and family down here. So I got a pretty good foundation here as well that I would even this greater Charlotte metropolitan area, is an area that 5 million people strong. So there's a lot of things, a lot of performing and things that could take place here. But I kind of want to concentrate everything locally initially. You follow
Okay.
me? That because at the end of the day, that my whole objective is not really to like blow up per se, but to but to expand my social media presence and
Mm-hmm.
to monetize from the social media platforms,
Yep.
and like that, and not necessarily, I don't want to be signed to a label or nothing like that.
Exactly.
I'm building my own, and in that way, once we get to a certain level where we monetizing on a certain level, then we can help other people to do the same thing. So
Okay.
to get a system in place, that a working system in place that's duplicable, that's the main objective.
Okay. Well, that's nice then. Like I said, you pretty much got a well put together plan, and I like that too. All right. So now I want to get into this album, Shelf Life. So, like I said, that was a very amazing album that you put out, very positive, uplifting work, and I really liked it. I know my favorite song was definitely Shelf Life, and she wrote, and BBL, and Angelic was definitely my favorite song. So, now what inspired you to write this album? Well, yeah.
Okay, so my inspiration for the album. Well, let me first break down the title. Okay, so the title is Shelf Life.
Mm-hmm.
That the logic behind the title is, just like if you go to the store and you purchase perishable goods, or not even perishable goods, but just goods in general. They have a shelf life. They have a period where where they
Mm-hmm.
remain good, and then well not they have a period that they'll last, and then they'll spoil. And I'm using that kind of as a metaphor for certain activities we engage in, uh, namely the negative activities in the streets, be it drug abuse,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know sexual promiscuity, um, just negative interactions, things like that. Is a shelf life to that. So that's the logic behind it. And the songs on that album, you know, kind of navigate those things. And generally, of course, there are songs that don't exactly follow that concept, but a majority of the songs on the album have some kind of relationship to those things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the basis. That's the basis of the album's concept. Um, each of the songs just means something to it's just something that means something to me, that I take the posture of a
Mm-hmm.
OG, right? I come from the gang activity. I come from that lifestyle, but I grew up. I
Mm-hmm.
changed my life for the better. I
Oh yeah.
I was kicked out of school before I even dropped out. I went back, got my GED. Went to college. Then I became educated myself, and I took
Okay.
I took the negatives and made them positives. But I don't want to, like, I don't want to forget
Mm-hmm.
where I came from to get to where I'm at. So for instance, like the first song on the album, it's called Occupied Space.
Mm-hmm.
And the guest artist on there is my son-in-law. But the
Okay.
concept of that song is a OG appealing to other OGs, not to judge the youth, for how the youth are. How we call the youth YNs or whatever. And how a lot of the young right now, the young guys in the streets, that a lot of them don't have no direction, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They're a lot different than even when we was in the streets. When we was in the gangs and things like that, we had something called
Mm-hmm.
literature. We had we had laws, and we had the structure, right? But a lot of
Right.
these youngins don't have that. And so a lot of us, might cast judgment on them, but we forget that a lot of these young kids, some of them was crack babies, right? What
Mm-hmm.
caused them to be crack babies? Maybe we did it back when we were selling crack.
Yeah.
So I look at it like, don't judge these youth. Take some responsibility for what you did in your day that contributed to these youth being the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my appeal to to my contemporaries. To, like, man, like, quit judging these youth. The way they are is because of us. So we need to take responsibility and get and school these youngins, and get them on a better path. And
Yep.
my son-in-law, his part of the song is kind of to balance it out and come from the youngest perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the next song is a song called Pandemonium.
Okay. Yep.
And so Pandemonium is like is like a dual purpose. One aspect of Pandemonium is just me just showing off my lyricism. I mean, every MC is gonna have a song where they just boasting about their lyricism, about how
Yep.
much better lyrically they are than everybody else. And that's that kind of song. But the second verse in that song is just me just stating or articulating uh, a dilemma that a lot of lyricists have when they attempt to decide, what they're gonna rap about.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to follow the trends and rap about what everybody else is rapping about? That would
Mm-hmm.
seem to be an easy route, right? Because people might buy it if I just follow trends. Or
Right.
do I want to challenge my audience to think? Do I want to be conscious? Do I want to address conscious things? Do I want to warn people about what's coming? That's a debate, that a lot of artists have. I remember Common once said, what did he say? He said, dudes is getting paid, but what about the bills? I want to make some dough, yet I want to show my skills. That's a conflict. And even Jay-Z said, truthfully, I want to rap like Common Sense, but I sold 5 million. I ain't been rapping like Common Sense.
Right.
That's a
Exactly.
dilemma that a lot of MCs have. And I think in the next song after that, I believe is well, I do have the album, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I do have it on vinyl.
Okay. I see that. Okay.
Okay, so Pandemonium, yeah, BBL is after that,
Yep.
right? And BBL is just addressing the sisters, and and how say lyrically, they say, well, we don't really need an augmentation. No disrespect to women with counterfeit tickle bitties. Brothers got appreciation for all type of women, even ones with the little bitties. So we saying that
Mm-hmm.
you
Yep.
ain't gotta buy all that stuff. spend
Exactly.
10 grand on a BBL, fly to Cabo to get a BBL for 10 grand. You wasting your money because most brothers don't, they're gonna like you anyway, regardless. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So that's the main idea, the concept of BBL.
Mm-hmm.
Mecca and the Soul Brother is a track with the sister from Akron, Ohio, named Heck of a Mecca. Dope
Mm-hmm.
artist, dope MC. In the mosque in the Nation of Islam, she's a really big artist in the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
And so I heard her music, and I with one of the brothers who also rap, and he let me hear some of his music, and she was featured on his songs. I said, yeah, I got to get her on the song, and that's what I did. And you mentioned Shiro as one of your favorite tracks.
Yes.
That's her singing on that song, Shiro, as
Okay.
well. Because
Okay.
she's a lyricist, a rapper, and also a singer as well.
It.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, and the title track, Shelf Life. My feature on there is another young brother from down here in Charlotte. Yeah, named Slime Trip. He's the one, who got the last verse on that, real dope song. And then we had Shiro. That's probably the track that most people like off the album. Yeah, one of the tracks. I'm considering doing a video for a few tracks, but Shiro was one of them.
Okay.
That was the first one that I was considering, but it seemed like it'd be a little it'll be a bit expensive to really do that video how I want to do it.
Oh
So
yeah.
so
Yeah.
so I'm
I know
considering
budgets.
something else first because yeah, to do that video how I want it. I really want if I do that video, I want it to be right. I don't want to just
And throw it together. Say, hey, it's
yeah
a video. Now I understand. Yep.
yeah. So now
Yep.
that video because that song to me. She wrote it's about single mothers, it's a dedication to single mothers.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. And like I said, I don't know if I said it before, I made all the beats on the album.
Okay. Nice. Okay,
Did
producer.
all the production, all the all the engineering. Except the only song I didn't do the engineering on it's the song it's Shelf Life, the title track. I
Okay.
made the
Yeah.
beat, but we recorded it at a different studio. We didn't record it in my studio. And
Okay.
also on a vinyl, there's a song called American Way.
Okay.
And American Way is not on the digital version that you heard.
Okay.
But just, you have to purchase the vinyl to get it's two bonus songs on the vinyl
Okay.
that's not on the digital copy. One is called American Way, and I didn't produce that one. That's the only one I didn't produce. It's produced by a friend of mine, a gentleman by the name of Tim Six. And,
Okay. Nice.
he's in Chicago. He's a really talented producer. We had we in a mosque we had a group called the Ranks. It was popular in the Nation of Islam, but like we had a really popular group at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to rap as a part of a group, but now I'm rapping solo. And
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so again, the topics, subject matter on the album is pretty much just inspired by my life experiences, and the positive changes I made, and and just an appeal to just an appeal to everybody else. And then, like I said, I don't want to come off preachy,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm sure it doesn't come off preachy, does it?
Nuh-uh, no, no. You speaking
Yeah,
facts.
yeah. I just want exactly, and that's. I'm sorry. You
Nuh-uh,
sound
no.
you
You
like
know
you was
you
about to
okay.
say so. Yeah,
Nuh-uh,
yeah.
no.
So yeah, and that's essentially what I wanted to do. I wanted to appeal to everybody without preaching to people,
Is it?
and also to provide like a soundtrack that people could vibe to. I wanted the music to be, that people could move to it, people could vibe to it. It can be eclectic and I have a real, me personally, I have a real love for hip hop of all,
Mm-hmm.
and not just the hip hop I grew up listening to. So I try to provide different sounds, like for instance, like on the song My DMs,
Okay, yep.
I try to make it, throw the 808s in there and make the sound kind of like what a lot of people doing today.
Mm-hmm.
Or like on BBL, I make that try to make that a little more musical, and so I don't try to just stick to like the 90s sounds,
Mm,
even though I love those sounds and those songs are on there, but I try to be a little more eclectic and
correct.
it has something on there for everybody.
Mhm.
That was my objective with the album.
Oh yeah, and you did your thing. But when I was listening to the album, it's like your style and your vibe remind me so much of Jadakiss. Was he also one of your influences?
You know what's crazy?
Yeah,
He
it's
wasn't one of my influences. Jada, I like Jada though. Jada,
uh-huh.
I'm a fan of Jada's, but no, he wasn't one of my influences. But it's crazy because I get compared to so many different people. Like most people compare me to, I mostly get compared to Eminem and I
Yep.
get compared to Kanye West. That's
I
why I get
just
compared. That's why I get compared to the most. And I don't think I sound like either one of them, but I get compared to them the most. But I
yeah,
think when I listen to Shelf Life, when I listen to Shelf Life, my verse on Shelf Life, I do think that does remind me of Jadakiss.
yeah. It's
It
I
wasn't
like
intentional though. It wasn't intentional, but yeah. My verse on Shelf Life, when I listened to it again, I was like, this kind of remind me of Jadakiss.
yeah,
I don't
when
know if
I heard it,
that's
like, yeah, okay.
I don't know if that's what you if that what you was referring to, but
Yeah,
that song definitely, yeah, when I listen to it, it definitely does remind me of Jada.
yeah. But
Yeah.
just like in general, from the other songs I was listening to, it's like that style and that flow and that vibe reminded me so much of him. It's
Yeah.
like
No,
what
but that's a compliment though, because I like Jadakiss and
yeah.
he definitely one of my top 10 lyricists, yeah.
Oh, okay. I would definitely
So
love that collab one day with y'all.
oh man, please.
Yeah. Now, how long did it take for you to put together this album?
Oh, Bay, how long did it take me to do this album? Yeah, it was definitely over a year.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely. And see
Uh huh.
my process is, I do songs, I shoot them to my peoples who ears I trust,
Uh
and
huh.
and get their criticism from them. You know what I mean? Like, I want them to tell me whatever, however they feel about it. Don't lie to me. Don't gas me up. Tell me how you feel about it.
I liked it. I
I
really did. Those 15 songs was very positive.
appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. And then because I know you just named a few artists that you collaborated with. Now with
Yes,
Slime, you said you collaborated with him on Shelf Life. Now, how did you meet him? Because I didn't catch that.
it's funny. I used to hustle with his dad
Oh,
back in
oh
the
wow,
day.
okay,
Yeah. I
okay.
used to hustle with his pops, right?
Uh-huh.
And and so and this back in, man, when I was 14, when I was 15, 16, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and because I got in Chicago, I went to Taft High School, ninth grade, I got kicked out.
Oh wow.
Mama made me move to Charlotte to come stay with my
Uh-huh.
dad for a while. And I met him. I met all them because we lived in the projects down here called Dalton Village. And his father, was one of the cats used to hang with us back in the day. We used to hang
Mm-hmm.
together. We went to the same school, all that. And so, so his pops, when I came back to Charlotte, I connected with some of the people I knew from Dalton Village.
Mm-hmm.
I came across his pops. His pops was like, my son rap. I'm like, for real? He let me hear him rap. I'm like, okay, cool. He cold. And so from there we just me and Youngin started building. I get like Youngin to do a song. Hit me up. Hey Unc, what you think about this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's cold. You know what I mean? Eventually we just chopped it up and we went to the studio. I took him to the studio and yeah, we came up with the song. I had the beat. I had already made the beat.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I had originally made that beat to work with another artist, an artist
Oh,
out of
okay.
Chicago.
Okay.
But we never could like coordinate to get it done. So I played that beat, and Shorty was like, "Man, this is cold." He wrote to it, and we just we put it together at the studio that day.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
right
So
there. And
and and and and that young brother is very talented. He could sing and rap.
mm-hmm.
Look him up. Slime Trip. SLYME TRIPP. He got some music out there. I got a lot of music with him. Like, yeah, I got like 5 or 6 tracks with him that haven't been heard yet. And we gonna put some stuff out with him. But he already got some stuff going. He got a lot of videos. He got a lot going already.
Okay,
You know,
well, cool. Then that's cool. I definitely put his information in the description box.
yeah,
Definitely. Now, I
yeah,
want to talk a
appreciate that.
little bit about Mama's Laws. I really like that song. Anytime someone talks about their mom, that's very uplifting and powerful because I did the same for my mom for one of my singles, Queen. So
Yeah,
it was just so relatable with that song.
yeah. And I wouldn't check your music out too. I like that. I like the joint where you talking about your man about what you do for him and stuff like that.
Oh, Ride or Die. Yes,
Yeah,
thank you
ride or die.
so
Yeah. I like
much.
that track. That's dope. But
Okay.
but anyway, so Mama's Laws came about. So the artists on there that's
Mm-hmm.
featured. There's two artists featured on there. One
Okay.
is a guy named Nut, and then there's a young lady named Maria Soul. So the way that came about was Nut. You know, he worked with me. You know, we work in the same factory. I was a supervisor of a production supervisor in the factory,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was his production supervisor. But you know, we were friends. You know, at work, and so we decided to start working together because he rapped too, and we used to spit bars when we take breaks and stuff. And so he came over. We worked on. I had just made the beat for it, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have no direction for the beat. I didn't really know what I was gonna do with it, but I just made the beat, and then I played it for him, and then I told him to write something to it. I told him right, and he wrote something. It was different than what we end up doing. But I
Mm-hmm.
listened to his voice, and his voice, he from down here in the South, and he got that, he got that Southern voice, right?
Oh
Threw me
yeah,
in the
yeah.
mind of like an outcast or a goody mob.
Oh yeah,
You get what
yeah.
I'm saying? So,
Uh-huh.
so when I heard his voice, I say, damn. It made me think about a Goody Mob song. Goody Mob had a song called "Guess Who"
Mm-hmm.
about their mamas,
Yeah.
and I was like, you know what I mean? And then in the vibe of the song, I was like, hey, write something about your mama. Oh, I told him, write something about your mama. He did.
Yeah.
So then I wrote some about my mama, and then it was
Mm-hmm.
good, but I was like, nah, it ain't ready. It needs somebody singing on the hook. You get what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm scrolling on Instagram. I'm scrolling on Instagram. I see a soulful lady, a soulful young lady singing, and I'm like, she's soulful. She sounds like a black woman, but she look Latina, right?
Right, yeah.
So then I checked out, listened to some more of her songs. I'm like, oh, she dope, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so inbox, what you charge for a feature? Man, she $300. I was like,
Oh,
okay, cool. That ain't bad at all. Come to find out, she's a really big artist in her own country, Argentina,
oh wow.
Grammy nominated and everything.
Get out. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So man, she, worked it out. Sent the
Mm-hmm.
look. Sent the what was it? What was it? I can't. It wasn't Cash App. It was
PayPal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sent the PayPal.
uh-huh.
Not only did the cold thing was all she was supposed to do was sing a hook. She sent me a hook and a bridge, and yeah, she went off like really a whole verse just about. So
Yeah.
yeah, so then I took it, mixed it, and there you have it. Is
That
what it is. We even did
that
a video for it.
oh wow, okay. I'm gonna
There's a
check it
video
out.
on YouTube. Yeah, it's a video on YouTube for Mama's Law. So you check that out.
Okay, yep. I'm gonna definitely add that link up in there too. Okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
other than that, it was a very amazing album. I definitely enjoyed listening to it. No skips, nothing. I heard the whole album. It was very amazing.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. So I know you did discuss about things you plan on doing in the future, like creating your own shows to give different talents different opportunities. Now, do you have any other future projects you're working on at the moment that you would like to discuss?
No, at the moment, like I said, that's what we focusing on right now.
Okay.
That's where the lion's share of our focus is. Outside of the music itself, right now I'm focused on my son-in-law. He's the one you heard on Occupied Space. You know,
Okay. Yeah.
we we're gonna work on a mixtape for him. And
Okay.
like I said, we're gonna work on getting these shows off the ground, and really try to get the music out there to the people. We're gonna embark on a local campaign
Okay.
initially until we get that solidified, and then we'll look at other things from there. But we want to focus on one thing at a time.
There you go. I like that. So
Yeah.
that way you don't even overwhelm yourself. And you want to make sure all you execute your goals properly too.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So now any dream collabs, any
Oh, like if I could collab with another
yeah, or the
artist,
dream artist. Yeah, yeah.
man. So I would love to rap to a Metro Boomin beat.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He
I would
dope.
love to rap to a
Yeah.
Metro Boomin beat. I would love to collaborate with even like, and if I'm rapping to Metro Boomin, I would love to collaborate with a 21 Savage over a Metro Boomin beat.
Oh yeah.
But as far as other artists like my contemporaries, really any of them, like you said, Jada, me being from Chicago, a Bump J or a Common feature would be dope.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, Lupe Fiasco feature, that'd
Yep.
be dope. Um, man, it's just so many artists that I appreciate that man, it could be I'll be here all day really like talking about who I would like to be be featured with,
Because
so
because it's kind of hard though, because like you said, there's a lot of talent out here.
it's a lot, but you got to know like you know who you would work with, who your sound would work with,
Mm-hmm.
who would work in harmony with you,
Exactly. That's
as
true.
opposed to clashing with you. But
Mm-hmm.
also like, but in the immediate future, I just would like to work with my brothers, from my group, the Ranks.
Okay.
Yeah, because we worked together before, and we put out some real good music before that the world had never really got to hear because we were confined. Well, a lot of people in the Nation of Islam heard it because we got a song called Elijah Rock.
Okay.
If you look that up by the Ranks, if you look that up, that song have got what all together like almost 100,000 views. So that that's a song that actually did pretty well
Okay.
for us. And but it's just really confined to the the Muslims in the Nation of Islam. Like other people didn't really get to like the benefit from that, or
Mm-hmm.
they get to check it out. But our objective for that song was to make a song that gave Elijah Muhammad his
Mm-hmm.
flowers, because a lot of times he's written out of history.
Okay.
Just how, and what I mean is that he did a lot for Black people, not just Nation of Islam members, but he the first Black school system.
Mm-hmm.
The Nation of Islam responsible for the first Black school system. That was his
Yep.
contribution. So there's a lot he contributed to the general Black body that we don't even know about because he's written out of history because of his religious affiliation. You follow
Mm-hmm.
me? So our objective with that song was to try to give him flowers and to try to make people see, what he's done for Black people, that haven't been given any attention. You
Mm-hmm.
know, similar to like, I remember every year they used to play the Martin Luther King song.
Yep.
That's really what we were trying to do with that song, but it kind of did the opposite and stayed confined to the religious community, but it didn't really get out to the world.
Okay.
But it was a dope enough song, I believe, to get out to the world. But I just guess it just didn't. I don't.
Yeah.
I kind of blame us for not pushing it in that direction though, because we kind of we kind of fell short of doing all that. Getting out, doing shows, things like that. We didn't do that, but because we was all trying to focus on our families and stuff, which is what
That's
you
it.
should be doing.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Mhm.
I agree. Now, what advice would you give to any upcoming artists?
Just 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 persevere, stick to your guns. Don't let nobody say deter you from what you're doing. But don't be afraid of criticism either. Don't don't surround yourself with yes men who just gonna tell you what you want to hear. You surround yourself with people who gonna tell you what you need to hear, but in the right spirit, in a more constructive spirit. Um, like I tell people all the time, I don't mind criticism.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I welcome it because I'm going to consider the criticism, but at the same time, I don't want mean spirited criticism because how is that going to help me? So
Exactly.
yeah, I just, and like if they are older artists, man, don't let them, discourage you with all that. Where they talk about older people rapping and you know we need more plumbers.
Right.
Stop rapping. That type of shit.
Hmm.
That type of stuff. It kind of pisses me off because I think I got a lot to talk about, and I
Yeah,
think I could do. I think my music is good enough where anybody can still listen to it. It don't matter what my age is. It's just that ageism in hip hop is a real problem to me because you don't
hmm,
see it done in no other genre.
exactly.
You don't see it in R&B. You don't see it in rock and roll. You don't see it in country. You don't see it in any genre except hip hop, which says to me that it's just an attack on black men at
Right.
the end of
It.
the day. That's what it is, and
Hmm.
and that's just something that don't sit well with me. And any man that's 40, 50 that still want to rap, man, do your thing, keep rapping. Don't you know?
Is
Don't
that?
don't let nobody shut you up. That's your craft. That's your canvas. You don't hear nobody
Hmm.
telling an artist to stop drawing or stop doing art when they get 50, or you don't hear nobody telling an author to stop writing books when they 50. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? That's your craft. That's what you passionate about. Keep doing it. Don't let nobody
That.
tell you to stop.
Yep, I agree because if you look at Smokey Robinson and Ronald Isley still doing their thing and they almost
Absolutely.
80. Yeah, so
Yeah, or look at right now, look at Wu-Tang Clan. They on a tour right now, right? Them
yep,
guys is what, 55, some of them are almost 60.
almost 6.
And,
Yep,
and they
still
and they on a tour right now and they selling out cities all
mm-hmm.
over the country, all over the world, really.
Yep,
So that's an indication to me that it's still a lane or it's still a demand for it. And if
is
you really paid attention to the last year or two, it been the OGs that been really keep putting the best music out.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Honestly,
oh yeah, yep, yeah. They've been there, done that, and they've been doing it for years too.
right?
Exactly.
Facts.
Yep. So now we're gonna play a game called Which Album Was Your Favorite? So I'm gonna name an artist and I'm gonna name some of their albums, and you just tell me which one was your favorite.
Okay.
All right, so now we're gonna start off with Tupac. So would you say your favorite album was Tupacalypse Now, Me Against the World, All Eyes on Me, or the Don Killuminati?
That's very easy. Me Against the World is my favorite Tupac album.
Okay, okay.
Me
Yeah,
Against the World.
yeah, because he had that Dear Mama joint on there too, so that one was nice. And
Yeah.
then I feel like that was more of a deeper side of him too.
Yeah, because Me Against the World came at a real pivotal time in Pac's career. That was right before
Mhm.
he went to jail. He was
Yeah.
recording that like right before. So he was in New York at the time.
Hmm.
And he was associating with he was associating with Jimmy Henchman and those guys. And this is like right after he did Juice, when he first started like becoming a mature man. This was a real pivotal time in his life, and the music that came out of that was
Hmm.
some really excellent music. In fact, this was the last period that I was really a fan of Tupac's because I wasn't a fan of Death Row Pac.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't a fan of Death Row Pac because he kind of broke my heart because he come from a Panther background. Like me, my father was a Panther.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah, he come from a Panther background and he wasn't like a street rapper, like he wasn't no street guy, but he started like indulging in that street stuff. And it was like, man, why you doing that? You don't need to be doing that. You Tupac, you a Shakur, you a Panther. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Your
Yeah.
music was, yeah. So once he went over to Death Row, that kind of now but I did like Machiavelli though. That was a dope album. But it kind of like him going over to Death Row, kind of like
Hmm.
I didn't like All Eyes on Me. I didn't even like that album because I didn't like the energy of it.
Hmm. Yeah.
I didn't like the end. It was negative energy. You know what I mean? And it like I said, to me it wasn't pop. To me it was more chug. You know, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows?
yeah. For me, so yeah, I couldn't get into All Eyes on Me, but Illuminati, that his last album, that album was dope. That was dope. That was right up there with Me Against the World. To me, it wasn't a better album, but it was right up there with Me Against the World, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But Me Against the World was my favorite Pac album.
Okay, nice. Okay, now with Biggie, because I know I remember him only doing two albums. So he had Ready to Die or Life After Death. Which one would you say would be your favorite?
Life After Death.
Okay.
Life After Death.
Okay.
I just think that, I mean, he worked with everybody on that album.
Mm-hmm.
Like, DJ Premier. Well, he worked with DJ Premier on Ready to Die as well. But Life After Death, man, he DJ Premier did Kick in the Door. He
Mm-hmm.
had some dope ass songs on that album. He worked with the Locks. He worked with Havoc from Mobb Deep. He worked with RZA from Wu Tang. On
Mm-hmm.
Long Kiss Goodnight. He was so many dope songs on that album, and his storytelling on that album was just on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was on the whole. The production was just clean. The storytelling was on a whole nother level. Man, he had every song on that album could have been a video, could have been a hit. Like, it was no skips on that album. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite song on it is probably I Got a Story to Tell though.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And that's one thing I can say about Biggie. He was definitely a storyteller.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. And now what about, now we're going to talk about Nas. So would you say Illmatic, it was written, Stillmatic, or God's Sons, your favorite album?
This is really harder than a person might think, because although Illmatic affected me a whole lot,
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that it's sonically better than It Was Written though.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I can't say that it's sonically better than It Was Written. I think organically, the effect it had on me was more impactful because at the time it came out, and my lifestyle at the time, and yeah, I could say it was. I don't know. That's kind of hard, man. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
this was Drink Champs, I probably would take a shot.
Yeah.
But let's see. It Was Written was sonically better than Illmatic.
Okay.
It was like, I mean, because there's only 9 songs on Illmatic. Like, Illmatic
Mm-hmm.
is only 9. You heard Illmatic before?
Yeah, I don't think I heard the full album, no, but I heard it
Yeah.
had
It's only
positive reviews
it's
though.
only 9 songs on the album.
Okay.
But But man, I gotta say Illmatic though. I gotta say Illmatic, man. Like, what I think about it, I gotta say Illmatic, because it's just
That,
like no other. There's very few albums that impacted me like that album.
okay. Yeah, and he's
Illmatic.
still doing his thing too. He had just released a new album too.
Oh yeah, Nas been on the road.
Yeah.
And I like everything he's doing, but yeah, Illmatic it's just a magnum opus.
Yeah, and that was his baby too, that first album. So yeah. Now we're gonna talk about Jay-Z. Now, would you say Reasonable Doubt, Hard Knock Life, Volume 2, The Blueprint, or the Blueprint 3 was one of your favorite albums?
The Blueprint
Okay,
is
the
my
first
favorite Jay-Z album. I
Oh,
like all those albums, but the Blueprint is just see the Blueprint is Kanye when he first came out.
mm-hmm.
In terms of production, like, you had Kanye Just Blaze, you had Hove at the top of his game lyrically.
Mm-hmm.
It's just nothing was stronger than that album. From a Jay-Z perspective, like, that's his best album to me. Yeah, the Blueprint, easily.
Okay.
I think, and I'm pretty sure most people who answer that question say the Blueprint.
Oh yeah.
Right. I'm pretty sure the Blueprint is 90% of most people what they say. Yeah, the Blueprint. I gotta get to the Blueprint. Yeah.
All
I
right.
still listen to that album to this day.
Oh yeah. And then and to know that album came out in 2001 and it's still, relevant today.
Yeah, that album, if it never came out in 2001, it could come out today and probably be the biggest thing ever.
Yeah.
That's how good that album was.
Yeah, true. Okay. So now the last artist we want to get into is Lil Wayne. So would you say the Carter 2, the Carter 3, or the Carter 4 was one of your favorite albums?
I think the Carter was, out of all of
the first.
Yeah, I think the first one. Yeah, I think it was the Carter. Yeah, the Carter, because that to me established Wayne as a lyricist, because he was just getting out of, he was just coming off of the Hot Boys and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in a group and he was young, and so it was like, you really didn't know. Like, it surprised everybody to me. Like, when I first heard Go DJ, it surprised me how lyrical Wayne was, in contrast with his other group members. And the Carter, to me, established Wayne as a force to be reckoned with from a lyrical vantage point.
Mm-hmm. And I would have to say my favorite album with Wayne was the Carter 3. It was just something about that album that was significant. I do know I was a freshman in high school when that came out, and he had a lot of features. But I would have to say Mr. Carter was my favorite song off that whole entire album.
Right.
And then he teamed up with Jay-Z for that album. So,
Yeah, Mr. Carter.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, give him.
And then when
That's
Millie came out, come on, everybody went crazy when Millie came out.
Yeah. So I guess from an impact vantage point, you right, but I'm just saying, like, just for me personally, like, getting into Wayne, that was, that first Carter to me just established him.
Yeah, true.
As a lyricist, you know what I mean? Because like I said, I didn't view Wayne as a lyricist before. I thought he was just a novelty, because he was a young rapper, and I thought he would be like Criss Cross or the Brad or something,
Right.
You know what I mean? Just a novelty. Once he gets to a certain age, it wouldn't pop no more. But he got to the age and just took the mantle. Like the Hot Boys got to going through legal troubles, all that. He took the mantle and was like, this is Cash Money right now.
Exactly. It's like he graduated.
He put the whole New Orleans on his back.
Exactly. He did.
Took it his own direction. And that's why the Carter, was the one for me, for Wayne.
Okay, cool. Now, did you hear his newest one? He just dropped the Carter 6.
I heard about it and everybody clowning it, but I'm gonna react to it on my YouTube channel. I haven't listened to it because I want to react to it on my YouTube channel.
Okay, cool. Cool. Okay, cool. Was there anything else you want to leave with the listeners?
Oh, yes. Just like I said, check out the album, Shelf Life. It's available on CD, it's available on vinyl, and it's also available on all digital platforms. You can get my vinyl on Elastic Stage. What I can do is I can send you the link if you want to put the link in the description. And if you can order it on Elastic Stage and they'll ship it to you. You can hear you can hear it on all digital platforms. Just check it out. My YouTube is Uncle Reem the artist. That's my YouTube. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Uncle Reem. Just check me out. That's all. I appreciate you continue to support sister. Podcast. And go check out some of her music too. She's dope. Check out some of her music too.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, I just want to thank you again, Uncle Reem, for even stopping by. Because
I appreciate you.
Anytime somebody dropping the album, hey, I want to put them on the platform to promote it. Because like I said, hands down, that was a positive album. No, I really liked it.
Gratitude. I'm glad you
next year or 2 years from now, we get another album from you.
Oh yeah, it probably won't be another 2 years because I'm working. I'm in the studio every day working. So in fact, I got enough material for another album already. But I want to continue to focus on this for now. But so I don't think it'll be 2 years.
Okay, you said that's gonna come out soon.
Yeah, it might be out sooner than people probably would predict.
It's gonna be a surprise. I already know.
Plus, I'm an old man. I ain't got a whole lot of years.
Okay,
so I gotta put stuff out when I can.
Okay. Well, yeah, but thank you so much again, Reem, for stopping by. And then again, you all make sure you all stream that album, and then I will have all of the information in the description box.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Take care. Thank you so much again.
You too. Have a blessed day.
You too. Thank you. Uncle Reem.
Big Unc. Yeah, we don't really need the augmentation, no disrespect to women. What counterfeit tickle bitties? Brothers got appreciation for all type of women, even ones with the little bitties. You ain't gotta drop 10 bands on a BBL, flying all the way to Cabo. You ain't gotta look like young Miami, Cardi B, Nicki, or Miss Mulatto. All that is a distraction. Can you treat them with compassion? Do addition and subtraction. Formulate a coherent paragraph, compliment wherever he lacking. You ever open up a book? You know how to cook anything other than twerking? Would you rather put 20,000 in the bank account or waste 20K on a Birkin? Out here flexing and you looking all fine. Penetrate the facade and you you out here hurting. Making up excuses, deflecting it like a lobbyist. It's obvious that something that you're doing ain't working. Pretty ass face and your lace from lace, but you front. If you really put a joy in, you was getting your nails done. The Korean lady with the crypto jail, why you still ain't got a boyfriend? It's that nigga Big what's good? She divinity, but she misunderstood. Give my life for what? Put that on my hood. I put that on my hood. It's that nigga Big what's good? She divinity, but she misunderstood. Give my life for what? Put that on my hood. I put that on my hood. Superficial standards of pop culture, the BBL and the augmented titties. Cause if she a despicable toxic person who never learned how to treat a man, then she not really pretty. It don't matter that she barely even working, if she carrying a Birkin. Cause all the information's really telling me for certain that she stressed. Her life is a house that's a mess. She don't want nobody lifting up the curtain. Change her identity, cause really she her own worst enemy. Thinking that the materialism is a remedy, relationship trouble. I hate to bust your bubble, but appearance not a substitute for chemistry. That external only lasts to a point, trading that lace front for a little bit of femininity. Don't no real man want this woman twerking all over the grand club, hopping and smoking like she a chimney. Only old woman is what you probably finna be. You don't see therapy and some positive energy. Broken black woman, black man, and a broken black child is the goal of the black man enemy. And it's been the same ever since the slave days. Some of this and some of us we can't say. Hoping I can stimulate the brain waves, get us on the same page. It's that nigga Big what's good? She divinity, but she misunderstood. Give my life for what? Put that on my hood. I put that on my hood. It's that nigga Big what's good? She divinity, but she misunderstood. Give my life for what? Put that on my hood. I put that on my hood.
That's going to do it for this episode of Inspiring Discussions. I would like to thank Uncle Reem again for stopping by. And please check out his album, Shelf Life, which is definitely a great album that's available on all streaming platforms. And I will leave the info in the box. And I would like to thank you all for tuning in. And please check out my second podcast, Wrestling Discussions, that's available on all streaming platforms. And I still have merch on my website if anyone is interested. And of course, I will be releasing another episode soon, so stay tuned. So thank you all so much again. Stay safe and God bless you all.